Hello, Garland Nixon here. And as you probably know, the foundational argument behind Zionism is that it is a worldwide and international project to keep Jewish people safe, unless, of course, they happen to live on the planet Earth. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here. And it's Friday morning. There's news. There could be more news by the evening. Who knows? But that could be directly related to this particular segment, shall we say. People say podcast. I don't know. Is that right? Is this a podcast? Who knows? So let's start here. One of the things that I think is important to discuss when you talk about what's going on in the Middle East right now is the issue of Zionism. Because when you talk about maintaining a system, protecting a system, right? The question becomes, what are the outcomes of that system? What are the desired outcomes of the system? And what are the actual outcomes of the system, right? So in this particular instance, the system is Zionism that we're talking about, a concept, a philosophy, right? And let's go into a simplified explanation of Zionism as best I can understand it. I think it's pretty accurate. My understanding of Zionism is basically this. Two things. God promised 2,000 years ago, God promised the Israelis a homeland, and somehow the world has at least the West, the U.S. empire, but previously the British Empire, has some kind of a duty to provide that for the Jewish people, right? That in particular, Europeans and Westerners have a duty because of what happened with the Holocaust, right? And that this particular project, what it will do is provide protection for Jewish people, so there will never be another a Holocaust, that they can come from the United States, they can come from the EU, they can go to where it's safe in Israel, which implies, of course, that it's not safe in the EU. It's not safe in the United States. The very foundation of Zionism implies extreme anti-Semitism in the US, in everywhere, in the West, in the East, and everywhere. There's nowhere that Jewish people can be safe. It implies that if they have to go to a particular place to be safe from anti-Semitism, that they are not safe other place, right? So the other places, it's the US saying, it's the EU saying, we are so anti-Semitic that we must be protected, that we must protect these people from us, from our civilization, such as it is, from our people, because we can't be trusted. We'd kill them all. We treat them terribly. Let's send them over there where we're safe. And right off the bat, there is a contradiction, because what it implies is that the US and the EU are saying, you can't stay here and be safe because our societies are too anti-Semitic. However, you can trust the same societies that you can never be safe in because they're anti-Semitic to provide you safety at another place, to support you in another area, to defend you and keep you safe. But wait a minute. You're not safe in the EU and the US because they're anti-Semitic, but you can trust the EU and the US to keep you safe somewhere else. Let me explain. It's not as much of a contradiction as it appears. And I'm going somewhere with this. Oh, my first Zionism may collapse the world economy. What you have to understand is that the ruling elite in the West see themselves as a totally separate entity than the people. What the ruling elite are really implying here is this. The masses, the hoi polloi, the great unwashed, these knuckle-dragging apes that are in our society, right? Not the ruling elite. We're far morally superior to them. But these knuckle draggers that are running around here, you can't trust them. The masses, you can't. They're a bunch of infantile, underdeveloped, mentally and morally inferior apes. And so we, the ruling elite of the West, must protect the Jewish people from the masses. And so you can trust us, the ruling elite, to protect you from the masses in our societies, because the masses in our societies are a bunch of knuckle draggers. It is in and of itself an argument of condescension by the ruling elite against the masses in their own region. Okay, it's important to understand exactly the dynamics of that, because you miss the contradiction. The original contradiction appears to be you must be protected from us because we can't be trusted because we're anti-Semitic. Therefore, you have to be in another land where you can be safe. In reality, the us is the question. The us is the ruling elite do not see themselves as the same us as the masses. And you can see right now, what did the ruling elite do? Every time something goes down now, they crack down on the masses. They got some woman in jail now because in England, because she tweeted something that happened not to be true, apparently. And they're saying that led up to this, the riots in the UK. Not the ruling elite going around the world overthrowing and destabilizing countries all over the world, overthrowing their governments, destabilizing, impoverishing them, the ruling elite of the West doing that. No, colonialism had nothing to do with it. This was all about some woman who shared a tweet or a Facebook post or something like that. She's the did. Again, it's the ruling elite blaming the working class for what they've done. I saw a woman, an immigrant, holding up a sign in England and said, "We didn't come to England. England came to us." Right? She was like, "I ain't come here. They came to my country, took all my stuff, destabilized it, stole all of our stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up here." Right? So that's a discussion that is a valid intellectual and philosophical discussion that has to be had in the context of what's going on in England. You cannot, it's like starting to talk about Israel on October 7th. Well, nothing happened before then. It's like starting to talk about the immigrant problems in the United States and in Europe without and pretending that there's nothing that happened that caused them, that these immigrants just woke up one day and decided to wander up to the border because, hey, what the hell? Not talking about the massacres and the genocides that were committed by US and British and European colonialism and imperialism that so impoverished and destabilized these countries. And that these people are here. I mean, hey, why are people from Algeria and France? How'd that happen? You know what I mean? We can go on and on and on, right? Why did all these Syrians suddenly show up on the shores of Europe after 2011 when Barack Obama's team started their dirty war to destabilize and overthrow Syria? And what do you know? A couple million Syrians showed up in Europe, right? That was the issue. That was the policies of the ruling elite. But yet they will argue we've got to protect the Jews. We've got to from the masses because we're the civilized ones. I think it's the other way around. And I think that to see the UK riots, which are, race, I mean, they're beating up innocent immigrants and stuff like that, not defending that, that's a terrible, unthinkable thing. But to see them through the context of what's happening now, without saying how this come about, why are all these people here? What made them show up? I mean, they're there for a reason. Is it fair to discuss the reason that they're there? I think it's important. Now, why do I say all of that? So we get into all of that, and we get back to the original Zionism, right? And the ruling elite not taking the blame for their horrible actions, and the working class suffering for their horrible actions, whether it's issues of immigration that they have trouble with, whether it's issues of poverty that they have trouble with because, all the money's being spent on wars, Ukraine, whatever the case may be. Now, Zionism is in an interesting place because it was supposed to protect the Jews and from anti-Semitism, right? And now what the ruling elite are doing in the West is protecting Zionism from the people in the West, from the masses who are rejecting Zionism. So what happened is this: you've got Jewish people and you've got the ruling elite saying, we got to protect the Jewish people from the masses, which we could go on and on for that, but that is questionable as that is, that the ruling elite is going to look out for anybody. The fact of the matter is, I don't think it was an accident that a few years after the Brits, after the UK decided to switch all of their ships over from sailing and stuff like that, steamships and coal run ships, to oil, a few months later, they say we'll go along with the Zionists and we'll got to have a place in the Middle East, right? That was about securing their interests when it comes to oil, the oil-rich region of the world. That's all that whole thing was. This was always a scam by the ruling elite, a scam on everybody. So now where are we? So now, if in fact, and now we got a contradiction, if in fact protecting Jewish people through the Zionist project, right, the project of Zionism, is your valid argument, then everything you do must also be to ensure that the Jewish people are protected. If you're the ruling elite in the West, is your ultimate outcome you're looking for? Is the ultimate outcome you're looking for the protection of the Jewish people worldwide? Or is the ultimate outlook you're looking for the protection of Zionism, whether or not it provides protection for the Jewish people worldwide? Because now, let's go here. Let's get to the foundation of this thing. The Israelis have once again attacked Iran. Now, Iran made it clear, you punch us, we punch back. And if you punch us again, we'll punch back again. Every time you punch us, we're punching back now. So we got a new paradigm where the Israelis, let me add this. It's the rules-based international order, which is dying in the steppes of Ukraine, and it's dying in the rubble of Gaza. Okay, the rules-based international order, which was Israel obviously felt they could exercise, means this: we can do anything we want. And there's nothing you can say. It's complete hegemony and control. We can go slap you around. You know what it's kind of like? It's like this. You ever watch a movie and there was some guy standing there talking to someone, and let's say it's the mafia figure, and he's got 2 or 3 of his men behind, and they're holding a gun on the guy, and he walks up to the guy, hey, we need to talk to you. And the guy's scared because he knows this is a mafia figure, 2 guns, and he slaps the guy, spits on the guy, kicks the guy. The guy knows I can't punch back, slap back, or hit back because I'll be killed. If you saw the movie Django, there was a point where whatever the guy's name was, he was talking to Calvin Candy, to the slave master, and the guy was like, shake my hand, whatever, right? And he knew that if he acted against Calvin Candy, that if he acted against these guys, that he would be shot and killed instantly. But he just couldn't take it. When the guy pushed him too far, he pulled out his gun and shot him dead, knowing that he'd be shot dead too. But that's the position you're in. If you're going to act, what'll happen as a result? You're surrounded by somebody else. And if somebody slaps you, you got to take the slap, because if you try to fight back, you can be killed, you can be mangled, maimed. It's going to be worse. Okay, that was a rules-based order. The U.S., we could go in and do anything we wanted to you. And then if you tried to defend yourself or fight back, oh, how dare you? The effrontery to exist, right? Don't you know who we are? Wow, my God, man, do you believe that? So we go in there and punch you, wham. And if you go back, don't like, oh my God, no, he didn't push back and fight and attack us, right? The dynamic was this: we can do anything we want because we're the ruler, and nobody better dare ever raise a finger back. When we slap you and spit on you, you'll just stand there and take it. And we'll tell you what to do. We'll surround your country. We'll build bases. And in fact, when the Russians, before the special military operation started, they sent a letter to the U.S. and to the EU and NATO and said, look, we'd like to have a discussion with you. You guys have moved into Ukraine. That's a red line for us. We need to talk about it. And what was the U.S.'s answer? That's not even a starting point. What was NATO's answer? Russia doesn't get a say. In other words, this is a rules-based international order. We do what the hell we want, and there's nothing you can do about it. Shut up. How dare you send us a list of demands or discussion points? Don't you know who we are? To which Russia said, that's the rules-based international order. And but basically what Russia said is, well, you're going to take Ukraine, huh? Yeah. You can have Ukraine, but you got to fight to keep it, right? It's like I got something and you say, Garland, I'm going to take your wallet. I want it right now. And I take my wallet and I lay it on the ground behind me. So you can have that wallet. You got to go through me to get the wallet. If it's worth the wallet to you, at the end, last man standing gets the wallet. But there's the wallet behind me. I'm standing there. We got equal arms, whatever. We got a sword. We got a knife. We got fisticuffs. We got nothing. And you say, I'm taking your wallet. And you've taken my wallet 10 times before. And you said, give me your wallet. And I gave it to you. Give me your wallet. And one day you come up and say, give me your wallet. And I set my wallet behind me and say, no. You want that wallet? Let's dance. If it's worth it, you can do it, right? Well, that's what all Russia said. They said, you can have Ukraine, you can keep Ukraine if you're willing to fight. You have to fight to hold it. There's going to be no more intimidation. There's no more bullying. There's no more orders. If you want to keep that, you got to fight to keep it. That's simple. The rules-based order at that point is over. When the bully says to you, or comes on the playground, and the bully says, give me your lunch money, and the kids give him some, kids give him every day. He's the bully. Ha, ha, ha. He collects up the lunch money. One kid says, you can't have my lunch money. I'm taking it. Well, you can get it, sure, but you have to fight to get it. At that point, the bully's kind of lost because everybody's standing there. And you know what? Somebody else is going to say it. And somebody else may help the bully and say, you know what? Here's a stick. Hit him in the head with this stick. The bully may stumble back and somebody else might trip him because they're trying to help the kid that's defending himself about against the bully, right? The bully's reign of terror is over. And when Russia said, no, you're not going to overthrow the country of Syria, that's our ally. When they said, if you come up to our border, you're going to have to fight. We ain't guaranteeing you we can keep it. We ain't guaranteeing we can't. But here's what we'll also tell you. If you win, we'll nuke you and kill every one of you. That's basically what Russia said. Look, our policy, if we have a strategic loss to you and it threatens threatens our borders, we're going to kill every one of you. So Russia said, number one, you have to fight to keep Ukraine. Number two, if you win and you get Ukraine, we're going to kill you. Even when you, as I love to say, it was one of my dad's sayings, even when you win, you lose, right? So that was the end of the rules-based order. Now, let's go to Iran. So Israel had been accustomed to the rules-based order. They were the junior rules-based order. They were the spoiled child. You know who my dad is? You'll do what I tell you or I'll call dad. Dad will come in and get you. And countries had accepted that. Russia, they bombed Syria and Syria would be like, well, if we do that, the U.S. has an excuse. They bomb Lebanon. Well, they'd kill atomic scientists and physicists in Iran. So finally Iran said, you know what? We've had enough of this rules-based order crap. So Israel took action against Iran and bombed their consulate in Syria, and Iran said, all right, you know what? You could do that. You got the ability to bomb us here or bomb us there or do something. Can't tell you can't do that. People do that all the time. You can do it. You can get it. You can do it. It's like somebody saying, you can call me a name. You can do this. But if you do, I'm going to punch you in the face and you're going to have to fight. Is it worth the fight? Okay, now let's continue and let's go with that and get back to the issue of Zionism and the philosophy of Zionism and how there's a contradiction now with the philosophy of foundational philosophy of Zionism based on the position that the Zionists and their backers find themselves in. Okay, so now Iran has gone further. I'm just going to say this. This is what I'm basing it on. Recently, I interviewed on my radio show in Washington, D.C., Dr. Syed Mohammed Marandi, brilliant guy who is very close voice. He seems to me, I'm speculating, that maybe he is an advisor of some type, a strategist of some type, whatever the case may be. I'm just speculating, but he has some very close inroads to the Iranian government. He has worked for them as far as doing negotiations and things in the past. He's a brilliant man. I respect him highly. So Dr. Marandi basically said, look, Israel did it again. We told him, we said, you punch us, we're punching back. So we gave him an elbow, brush back elbow, right? Last time, this time ain't gonna be an elbow. We told him. Those days are over. The rules-based international order days are over. The days when you can come into our country and do anything you want and walk away unscathed, those days are over. So now you're going to have some decisions to make, and not just you, the United States. Dr. Marandi said, look, we're going to hit Israel back. Now, number one, if Israel punches us back, we're going to punch them back. And if they punch us back again, we're going to punch them back again. And as long as they go back and forward, we'll go back and forward. So he's saying if Israel wants a war, now keep in mind something, and this is important, and I didn't think of it until Andrei Martyanov said this, and it's actually something to think about. You wouldn't really have a conventional war between Israel and Iran because they're 2,000 kilometers apart. So what could they do? They could throw missiles back and drones back and forth at each other. Also, that would have to cross the airspace of some other countries. If Israel wants to fly to Iran, they're going to have to get tankers to refuel their planes midair. You know, do they really want to fly into Iran? It's got an integrated air defense system that is in fact sophisticated. So what are they going to do? Now, Iran is not flying planes to Israel. They're going to fly drones and missiles. So the question, and Iran, interestingly enough, this is interesting. The U.S. used to have Iran surrounded with bases and stuff like that, the U.S./Israel. As a result of attacking and destabilizing Syria and Iraq, the Iranian allies have expanded and become much more well-armed, so much so that the situation has reversed itself. And now Iran has Israel surrounded by its allies, whether it's Yemen, the axis of resistance forces in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, Hezbollah. So now, as a result of the Iraqi invasion and subsequent occupation by the United States, Israel, basically, the Iranians have Israel surrounded, and they've got U.S. bases all over. If the U.S. and Dr. Morande, came out and said it as if we didn't know. Look. If the U.S. decides they want to attack us, they got bases all over. Understand something. If they hit us, we're hitting their bases. Understand that. If they take it too far, if they get carried away, we'll flatten every bit of oil infrastructure in the Middle East and collapse the world economy. That's what they're saying right now. Let's go back to the original foundation of Zionism. It is to protect the Jewish people worldwide. That's why I said, unless they happen to live on the planet Earth. Because if, in fact, America is so-called protecting Zionism, protecting Israel, by going after Iran to a point where Iran collapses the world economy, that ain't very good protection for the Jewish people worldwide, are they? They live in the world. They deal with the world economy. There's a lot of Jewish people that are wealthy, a lot of Jewish people that have businesses, that have corporations, banks, investment firms, you name it, right? That are all integrated in the entire world economy. If the world economy collapses, they're part of that world economy. It's going to collapse for them. So now what you have is another contradiction. Is the U.S. implying we will protect Zionism, which will then destroy the world economy and bring the lives of all Jewish people throughout the world into great peril. So now you've got Zionism that is no longer there to protect the lives of Jews worldwide. You have Zionism, which is the threat to the world economy. So it's a threat to everyone worldwide, to bring misery, starvation, depression, and needless to say, what's going to happen if people are starving and all that kind of stuff. Look, let's be honest about this. Do you think in Europe, given Europe's history, again, one thing that the ruling elite got right, and that there is a history of anti-Semitism in Europe and the US. There is a history of that, right? They got that right. And that one could argue that the Holocaust, rather than being some kind of a independent action, was kind of the crescendo of centuries of anti-Semitism, right? It had been going on for centuries, but it had been completely supported by the ruling elite, one would argue. And one could also argue that the ruling elite were the ones who supported and helped to generate and create the Nazi war machine so they could use it against the Soviet Union. So the ruling elite were probably much more responsible for the rise of the Third Reich than anything, the European ruling elite, than anything else. It wasn't organic internal. They provided the money, they provided the banking, they provided everything, and they turned their backs on and pretended that they didn't see the anti-Semitism because they had a geopolitical strategy. So now this thing is turned inside out. So now they're no longer protecting a Zionism that is designed. Well, let's face it, this is the true story is out now. The truth is out. The assertion that the colonial and imperial powers of the West were protecting Zionism because they had some concern about Jews worldwide has been revealed as preposterous. And now what we're seeing is this, the truth. They're protecting Zionism because it's part of their colonial imperial machine. That the truth is, Israel is there as a fort. Israel is there as an imperial fortress, a military fortress in the Middle East where all the oil is. And they will collapse, they can collapse the world economy. They might make life miserable for Jews worldwide. Let's face it, Jews are leaving. Oh, it's there to protect the Jews. They got to come there where they're safe. Really? Then why are all the Jews leaving? Get the hell out. They're leaving. They're going back to where it's safe from where it's unsafe. And the idea in Israel is not to protect Jews worldwide. It's to protect U.S. and Western investments and oil supremacy and the ability to control the flow of oil. And the more they push, the more it becomes obvious that they don't have the power and they can't do that. Not only that, they screwed up this time. Man, don't go punching with the Muslims. Don't go attacking the Muslim part of the world, because they ain't going away quietly, and they're not going to accept defeat. They're going to give you hell, and whatever punishment you're willing to take, they're willing to take. And now they made a mistake. It's interesting that the U.S. empire they want to tangle with Russia. Russia's fighting them. Russia's giving them hell. Russia's very patient. They want to tangle with China. China's very patient. They want to tangle with the Muslim world. The Muslim world ain't patient. You see, the Muslim world is something different. It is a civilization that is not, let me put it to you like this. It's not bound by borders. It's bound by a way of a belief system, a common belief system, and a common set of principles. Whether you agree with them or not, you may be a Christian, you may be a Hare Krishna, you may be anything, but you might not agree with it. But that's what they're bound by. That's who they are, a common set of beliefs. It is a civilization. And here's something that they know. They know that the West came in and arbitrarily drew boundaries throughout their civilization, and they don't necessarily accept those boundaries, right? That the U.S. installed leaders in Saudi Arabia and different places. The House of Saud was the British, in Lebanon, on and on and on, right? Syria, blah, blah, blah. So there is an understanding that a significant part of their civilization, of their so-called administrative states right now, aren't acting on their behalf or in accordance with their principles and beliefs, because they were created, designed, and supported by the colonial and imperial powers. They understand that. So they stick together based on their common set of principles. As I said, whether you agree with them or not, it doesn't matter whether you agree with them or not. They're their principles, and that's what they stick to, right? So what you have now is a civilizational war. They're like regional war. See, that's Western talk. It's region. When it comes to Ukraine, that's Western talk. Why? Because it's territorial, because they're about taking territory, right? So when they say, well, the Russians have now taken the town of this, that, and the other, and the Russians are like, well, actually, we're destroyed. The Russian part of Ukraine, their concern is we killed X amount of Ukrainian soldiers, we destroyed X amount of tanks and planes and this and that. Why? Because the Russians are not as concerned with taking territory. They're concerned with crushing their enemy's capacity to fight. So the U.S., like they're always concerned. It's always a territorial thing. We're going to take more territory. We're going to take more ground. Why? Because that's what an empire does. An empire expands. It takes more territory, and it contracts when it gets smaller. And it always wants to fight against contraction. That's what the U.S. empire is fighting against, contracting right now. The Russians are saying, you expanded into Ukraine to our border, you're going to have to contract. Can't have it anymore. Right. So the Muslim community is saying, you've expanded in our region. You got to get out of Iraq. You got to get out of Syria. You got to get out. You have to contract the empire. So right now you have the anti-imperialists are pushing against the empire, saying it's time for the empire to contract. We ain't letting you expand no more. And that's what the Russians are saying. So the Russians are saying we aren't going to worry about taking this town or that town. We'll take them. Only in that we're going to bash the hell out of the Ukrainians, and they won't be able to fight. When we get finished with them, there ain't going to be nothing left to fight. So you won't have anything to arm. You won't have anybody to give stuff to. We will take their will to fight, and we'll bash every piece of equipment and everything you have that you can give them. We'll tear it up. They don't fight. It's like a person who's fighting. You're trying to hit the center. You're trying to hit the command center, get a hit in on the head. You do something to add to it, right? And there's other people saying, I'm going to take your weapons from you. When we fight, first, I'm going to get that wrist and I'm going to break your wrist. Then I'm going to strike your knee and I'm going to hurt that kneecap. I don't have to. I could attack you and say, I'm going to get a strike in on the head and hit that command center. And that's going to stop your ability to fight or knock you out or knock you unconscious. That's one, if that certainly presents itself in a conflict, right? But I can also say, whatever you put out at me ain't coming back. When you throw a punch, you better throw that punch and you better get it back. You'll notice boxers, boom, that punch comes back. Anybody that strikes, what's the first thing you learn? Strike and then bring the hand back. You know, chamber that round again. You're ready to strike another round, but you don't want to leave it out there when you strike. The camera. I don't want to strike out towards you and give you the opportunity to grab that hand. Now I'm in deep trouble. If that hand stays out there, you're going to grab it, you're going to twist it, you're going to turn me inside out and snap, hyperextend my elbow, break my fingers, all kinds of terrible things are going to happen, right? So the bottom line is I can strike the command center or I can take your weapons from you. I can take your ability to fight from you, right? If I get a finger, I can snap that. That's going to start anything I can do to take your ability to fight away from you, take your mobility from you by injuring an ankle, a leg, a knee, whatever the case may be. Strike a groin, solar plexus, hit you somewhere where you have so much pain or you lose your breath, whatever the case. And I stop your ability to fight. I stop your will to fight. Just think you get somebody's finger and you yank it sideways, and now they hold up their finger, and this one here is pointing in that direction. That's going to take their will to fight. They'll look at it. Now, you didn't do anything, but get that finger, pow, you snapped it, right? You got your hand around that little pinky, and when you did, it's going in a direction it ain't supposed to go, right? But what happens now? Somebody looks, and they'll literally go into shock. A person who's not accustomed and ready to take pain will literally go into shock and like, oh my God, you've sapped their will to fight. What I'm saying is, so when the imperialist, the empire is saying, we're going to take this town, this country, this city, this, we're going to continue to expand. The Russians are saying, we're going to take your will to fight and we're going to take your ability to fight, for your proxies, and then we'll walk in. When we want Odessa, we'll walk into Odessa, because when we get finished, you ain't going to be able to protect Odessa. We ain't going to have to go frontal and head and take Odessa. There'll be nothing left. The will to the Ukrainian troops will be gone. Their air defense will be gone. It'll all be gone, and they won't be in a position to defend Odessa, and we'll just walk in and take it, right? It's a different concept of fighting, right? And with Israel, in the Muslim community, the concept is this is our land. This is our sacred holy land. This is where we were born, and we ain't giving it up. And if you want to fight for it, you can fight for it, but we'll fight you. But we ain't going to stop fighting you. We're not going to throw a couple punches and see if a blow landed and back up and try to reevaluate. No, we're coming at you till you're out of here. You ain't stopping, right? You started. Right now, they're being measured, right? They're being measured. But in the event, let's say Iran smacks back to Israel, and then the United States, we're going to get into it. We're going to throw some punches to Iran too. Now, what happens? In protecting Zionism, not protecting Jewish people worldwide, which is the alleged philosophy of Zionism. If you're going to protect Jewish people worldwide, do you want to collapse the international economy? You won't even take a chance of collapsing the international economy so they can lose all their money, their investments, and everything they have? No, you don't want to do that, because it's going to actually hurt Jewish people and everybody else worldwide. But if Zionism is a project to protect your investments in the Middle East, screw the Jewish people. You can do what you got to do. And so what's being revealed now is that Zionism is a project to protect the investments in the Middle East of the ruling elite in the West, and also to protect their ability to have a to protect their hegemonic interests. We got to be able to control the oil. We need to be able to shut down the oil. We need to be able to say to the country, this country, you can't sell oil to that country, etc. Right? We need hegemony in the region. We need control in the region so that we can look out for our interests. And the way we'll get it is by telling a lie, by giving you a fake story. We'll say we're here to protect the Jews. Yeah, that ain't the case. But if you look at our history, but hey, that's liberal interventionists. They're always there to bring democracy to somebody, to stand up for the LGBTQ community, to put the first female of color in whatever the case may be, right? They're always there to do good. They're do-gooders, good doers if you listen to them. But if you dig below it, it's always a stinking lie. So I end up by saying this. So right now, to protect the Jews worldwide during using Zionism, the world economy is on the edge. If the Iranians punch and the U.S. says, well, we're going to punch back too, and we're going to get them, the Biden, first of all, let me add this. If we even have an election at that point, because the international economy is going to completely collapse at that point. I mean, let's say, what happens? What happens? The U.S. Bases start getting hit. Now the U.S. is at war, total, complete war. The region, the Straits of Hormuz, is now mined, bombed, completely shut down. 30% of the world's gas and 20% of the world's oil cannot get out at all. What happens to the price of gas and oil? What happens to our economy if gasoline, when you can get it, is $20 a gallon, $25 a gallon? Let's just go $15 a gallon. What happens? It's over. What happens to the price of food? You got hyperinflation. Can you imagine? Hey, I need a dozen eggs. That'll be $22.50. Why? Because what price of diesel fuel to get those eggs to market? Hey, I want to get some fish. Sure, that'll be $40 a fish. $40 a fish. Yeah, do you know what it costs for diesel fuel for a boat now? To go away from the dock and to check his nets and to get some fish, crabs, shrimp, you name it. What is it going to cost? And then what's it cost to transport that in a refrigerated truck that burns more fuel because it is refrigerated, on and on and on, right? So what happens now? Your economy's done. To what? To protect Zionism. And there you have a conflict, an absolute conflict. Right? There you have a paradox. There you have a contradiction where the U.S. said, we have to protect our economic interests in the region. But in protecting their economic interests, they destroyed their economic interests. There you have a paradox, right? Well, we'd rather look tough and wipe out our economic interests. And furthermore, then we're broke. How do we help Israel? Think about this. We're broke. The Western economy is destroyed. How do we help Israel when we're broke, when the stock market's crash? And oh, by the way, does anybody we know sell oil and gas, and a lot of it? Russia. So what happens then? At that point, Russia becomes the center of the world because they got plenty of gas and oil. And it's now $350 a barrel. And you know what Russia's going to say to the West? Europe's going to say, can we get some more of that oil? And Russia's going to say, can't do it because it's all promised to China and India and all of our friendly countries. Sorry, can't help you. So Russia's going to, and probably give them a discount. So Russia's going to be making a fortune. You do that, Russia will be the richest country in the history of the world. And it ain't going to change no time soon. The amount of money that Russia would bring in is uncountable. So you now made, and might I add, you got these other countries who Russia has an interesting combination in that it's one of the top, and they've just taken a big part of Ukraine, which is a very, very fertile part of the world. So they're getting a lot of other stuff too. So now what you have Russia, a country that, interestingly enough, is one of the top food producers in the world and one of the top oil and gas producers in the world. So what can Russia do that a lot of countries can't do? They can grow their stuff and transport their stuff cheaply when nobody else can. Now they can still raise their wheat with their tractors and raise the stuff with their tractors. They can have bread and all these kinds of things that they grow because they can now produce the oil and gas for themselves to run their farm equipment, and nobody else. And we got to buy it. Everybody else has got to buy it. They're in a position of wealth where the center of the world would be the Russian economy because of the things that they can produce. They couldn't produce things fast enough. But people would be circling Russia. Please, please, please tell me what you got. U.S. would be in economic collapse. So, and why? Why would we collapse the economy of the world and the economy of the U.S. and make Russia the richest country in the world to protect the U.S. economy? No, to protect the U.S. macho bravado rules-based order, right? That the macho bravado rules-based order is that we run the world and everybody's got to do what we tell them to do. And we got to protect that mostly, first and foremost. We can't lose that, even if everything falls apart, and everything would fall apart. And that would ultimately fall apart. At that point, everybody would be like, we're never listening to you again. And then what's Israel going to do now? They're at war, going back and forth. The world economy has collapsed. What are they going to do? What is the U.S. going to do? We're in a world of deep and serious trouble. So the U.S. could collapse the world economy to save Zionism, because Zionism is going to protect our economic interests in the Middle East. Some problems with that, isn't it? Let's move on to something else that I think is of great consequence. Last subject, Trump-Harris debate. All right, so what has happened with Trump-Harris debate? Initially, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, let's do a little bit of history. Joe Biden has been in cognitive deterioration for some time. In 2019, I think it was Julian Castro from Texas was running, and he brought something up about running for president. He brought something up about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, and he was, eviscerated, disemboweled by the mainstream media for implying such a thing, which again tells you that he was on the money, right? So then the Democratic Party has a primary in which they set it up, as I've said in my argument on my Political Superfood Substack, which is probably worth going to and reading. And anybody who wants to become a member, I think it's like $4.99 a month, but you don't have to. It's free, but I would appreciate anybody does. But at any rate, cheap way to support the channel. But at any rate, they basically rigged the primary like they always do. And they said, hey, nobody can run but Biden. We're going to make sure Biden gets it. And there's nobody. The other part was and there'll be nobody in second place, because we're not even going to put people's names on the ballot. Only Biden's name goes on the ballot in a number of states. So nobody's in second place. So then mysteriously, they decide for the first time ever to have a debate extremely, extremely early in June. And what do you know? Just like everybody knew, Biden flopped. Now, a week before that, they told us how brilliant Biden was. He was sharp as a tack. And then he did what we all knew he was going to do. And then they acted shocked. Oh, we had no idea. Well, how is it that we all knew and they did, right? So it's a preposterous. This is an acted game. We didn't know. Yes, they did. And they did it so they could get rid of him. So then they tossed Biden, and in comes this airheaded person, Kamala Harris. So she goes in, and all of these people wake up and they're like, oh my God, she's a genius. People that never saw her before. They have no clue. They never really haven't watched her talk. They have no reference point, but they turned on the news, and the news said she's brilliant, she's wonderful, she's awesome. And so they just said, yeah, that's right. And then they said, Trump scared a debater. Why? What was the context for that? Trump had agreed to 2 debates, one in June, one September 10th on ABC against Joe Biden. Kamala comes in and she says, okay, we're going to debate you, Donald Trump. We've got the September 10th debate to come up. And Trump basically says, and not implies, says, paraphrasing, I'm paraphrasing, look, I made that deal with Joe Biden, not with you. We got to work out a deal. I didn't make that deal with you. I had a deal to debate Joe Biden on September 10th on ABC. You ain't Joe Biden. You can't just claim that deal without even talking to me, which is not unreasonable. Makes sense to me. He's saying, hey, I had a deal with the other person. Now we need to debate, but we got to strike our own deal. The deal that I have with him is not a deal with you. So, of course, the Kamala Harris group people said, Trump's scared. Woo-hoo, he's scared of Harris. He's horrified. He's running from her, boy. He's running from her because he knows that she'll eviscerate him because she's so smart, right? Okay. At which point, My position was, what the hell are they talking about? That doesn't make sense. I mean, it was a valid thing to say. Again, that people know I'm, to the left of all of these parties, but I'm trying to evaluate it in an unbiased way, and in a way that simply uses, deductive reasoning, shall we say, and you put it together. Well, wait a minute, it wasn't a deal with Kamala Harris. It was with Biden. So Trump has a right to say, I have a new adversary and we got to work out a deal, right? If I have a deal, if I'm a boxer and I have a deal to fight Sugar Ray Leonard on May 12th in Manila, and it falls apart, some other boxer can come up and say, you got to fight me now. Well, no, I had to deal with Sugar Ray, not with your people. No, you got to fight me. Oh, he's Garland scared to fight me. He won't fight me in Manila. The deal wasn't with you. It was with Sugar Ray. What the hell are you talking about, right? It's reasonable, right? It only makes sense. Now, understanding Trump, a business guy who, is in a bargaining and, as he always talks about, making a deal, right? And let me say this. In the same way that you can't over or underestimate Harris, kind of hard to underestimate her, let's not over or underestimate Trump. Trump is not the second coming of, he's not an, Dan Quayle, where he's a total idiot, and he's not, I'll say this politically. Let me be honest. Barack Obama, for all the issues I have with Barack Obama, you can't say he's not a smart politician. I certainly don't agree with what he did. I don't agree. Go on and on and on. But Barack Obama is a smart politician. He is a smart politician. There's a lot of politicians I disagree with, and I acknowledge that person is a very effective politician, right? So Trump is neither Barack Obama nor Dan Quayle, but I'll say this about Trump. You underestimate him at your own peril. So they come out and they're like, hey, Trump's scared of her. He won't debate her. Now, Trump being a guy who understands, okay, I'm going to hit him with a counteroffer that's not going to work out in their best. To be quite frank, it was a brilliant move what he did. It was a brilliant move. What Trump then comes out and says is, look, here's the plan. Let's do 3. Because I'll tell you what I had said, not one debate. Let's do 3 of them in September. Because here's what I said. They're running around saying Trump's scared to debate Kamala. I said that could backfire on you, because now he can come back and say, sure, let's go do a bunch of debates. And based on my experience of watching Kamala, I don't see her as the sharpest knife in the drawer, right? By any stretch of the imagination. And there is a potential for her to collapse in the worst kind of way, for her to make a complete idiot out of herself. Not saying that she will, but that potential exists, right? So I thought, when Trump was saying, no, I'm not going to do September 10th, my initial reaction was, that's not a good move by Trump. That's not sharp, because she's a terrible debater. And I said, in some of my videos, I said, if I was Trump, I'd try to debate her every single day, nonstop, 5, 10, 20, all the debates you want, right? Because she has the potential for collapse. I don't see her as an intellectual by any stretch of the imagination, nor do I see her as an effective politician, an effective orator, or a good debater. I don't think she's good in that stuff. And she doesn't seem to be particularly strong in the emotional intelligence area. She could get freaked out, flipped out, and lose it. Those are things potential. She seems like she can be a bit of what I mean is, she seems like she can be a bit of a hothead. And she explains things all the time like she's talking to kids. Okay, Russia's a big country and Ukraine's a little country, boys. And she always sounds like she should end every one of her statements with boys and girls. Like, she, you know what I mean? It doesn't come across like she respects the intellect of her audience, probably because she doesn't. But at any rate, so Trump comes back and says, what I think, my opinion, brilliant political move. Brilliant political move. So Trump then comes back and says, I accept the September 10th ABC. And he says, I have also accepted 2 more in September. We want 3 in September, one with NBC News and one with Fox. Kamala's a terrible debater. And he basically said what I've been saying. She ain't a good debater. She does a bunch of debates. She's going to fall to pieces in one of them. It's not going to work out in her best interest, in my opinion. I could be wrong. That is my opinion, and I have a right to it. And I have ample foundational evidence to take that position, right? Okay, so Trump does that. So now what's Harris going to do? That was a good counter, really. When somebody says, you're afraid to do this, you don't want to debate me. All right, let's do 3 debates. See what you want to do. Now, I think 3 was a good counter move for this reason. Because now what he's saying is, well, you said September 10, I've accepted it. So she can't get out of that one. There's no way for her to get out of that one because she said she wanted to do it. Trump was afraid. He's taken her up on that one. Now, what he's then said, and you said he was afraid, I want 2 more, one on Fox, one on NBC News. Why? Because that puts her in a position of saying, I'll only do one on friendly turf. I won't do one for Fox, which is not friendly turf. It'll be friendly turf for Trump. And Trump says, let's do all 3 of them. Let's do NBC. So he says, so basically, here's what Trump's saying. You already got one on friendly turf. You got a home game, right? I'll give you another home game and I get a home game. So now what does she do? She's got a home game. Does she say, I won't take any of the other 2? I'll only take one? After saying that Trump was afraid of her to debate her, does she say, I'll take one and I'll run from the other 2? That's an option. Does she say, I'll take that home game and one other home game on NBC News, but I won't give you a home game on Fox? Well, Trump's got a big argument then. He can say, wait a minute. Come on now. You got Biden had a home game. You get a home game on ABC News. I get a home game on Fox. It's not fair for you to say, I'm willing to give you 2 home games. I'm willing to say, I'll give you ABC and NBC, and I'll just take one to Fox. I'll give you the advantage. Let's do it because I think I can beat you. It's cocky, right? I once saw a guy at a pool stick, really, really good pool player. And he told the guy, I'll beat you. He says, dude, he says, I'll take some chalk and put it on the end of a mop handle and beat you. And the guy's like, ah, ha, ha. And he did it. He beat the guy with it's a true story. I wish I was making it up. He beat the freaking guy with a mop handle, right? Not that the other guy was that good, but, so he didn't have a lot of talent, but I mean, a lot of competition. But the bottom line is this. It's pretty humiliating to lose a pool game to a guy who's using a freaking mop handle with chalk on it. Anyway, let us continue. Literally, I saw that with my own eyes. I wish it was a long time ago. I wish it was today's day and age. I would have had to live stream that one. But at any rate, my point being, Trump's now saying, I will give you the edge. I'll fight you on your own territory. I'll give you 2 I'll give you 2 home games. I'll take one. So now he has countered her saying, I'll take a home game with, I'll give you 2 home games and I only take one. And her options are to say, no, I'll only take 2 home games. I won't give you a home game, which then gives Trump really strong rhetoric to say, wait a minute, that's not fair. And everybody's looking at us going to say, well, he's got a point, Cameron. I mean, come on, you want 2 home games. He's willing to give you 2 home games to 1. You can't very well say, no, I'll take 2 home games, but I won't give you 1 on Fox. So I think it was a brilliant strategical move by Trump. What'll happen? And you know what kills me? I'm saying this. There are people that'll get mad at me just for saying that. Oh, Trump is evil. How can you say that? Because I thought it was a brilliant strategical move. The Trump derangement syndrome people. We know who they are. They walk amongst us, right? So that's where we are now, waiting to see what happens on that. If you want to see the dancing, let's do this. Let's watch them. Let's see how they're dancing about that. We go to google.com. There we go. And let's do this. We're going to search Trump, Harris, DEBATES. And what we're going to do is, we want to see how the machine is dancing. You always search Google because it ain't really a search. It's just simply, this is what the machine says. Let's go to the news and see what Google's saying. Trump agrees to ABC News debate with Harris. Trump and Harris agreed to debate as Republican looks to shift race. The Harris v. Trump debate is already looming as another historic pivot point. Harris and Trump will debate in September. ABC News and Harris have agreed to debate on September 10th. You notice something? Trump backs down after bailing on debating Harris. Why Donald Trump debating Kamala Harris could be a disaster. Trump and Harris agreed. Now, you notice something. Harris' rise has unsettled Trump, who is struggling to focus. Now, you notice something about that. Here's the first thing I noticed about that. Donald Trump offered 3 debates. He said, let's do this. 3 debates in September. And every one of those articles just says September 10th. They all ignore the fact that Trump said 3 debates. That tells you something. They understand the weakness of Harris. They understand that 3 debates ain't a good thing for her. Trump, look, would I say Trump's a great debater? Nah. Would I say he's a terrible debater? Nah. He's just Trump. You know what Trump is in a debate and everything else? I once heard somebody say the difference between a star and an actor, right? You know, Dustin Hoffman was a great actor. Dustin Hoffman was Tootsie. Dustin Hoffman was what is it, Billy Bathgate, where he was what was the Dutch Schultz, the mafia guy. Dustin Hoffman is a guy that could play a lot of different people. You know what I mean? Tom Hanks is an actor. He can do a lot of different things. He can be different. You got a lot of people who can be very, very different at their actors. They could take on a particular persona, right? I would say that what's his name? Robin, what's his name? The guy that was Mork from Mork. He was a good actor. I saw him in comedies. I saw him in dramas. You know, they're a good actor. And then there's stars. A star, no matter what movie the star is in, the star is always the same person. It's Arnold, right? He's always, there's some iteration of Gato da Chapa. If it's, why do I love Arnold? I love the Arnold movies, right? Because they were macho movie, Gato da Chapa. You know what I mean? It's always, he's got a big knife or something. He's got a big gun. He's got the big guns out, right? He's the tough guy. He's beating somebody, punching somebody, killing some aliens, machine gunning some, some creatures, whatever the case may be, running through the jungle. Arnold was a star. No matter what, he was always the same guy, as opposed to a actor or actress who can be whatever they need to be in a given circumstance and be really, really good at it. Trump, I would consider him a star under that definition. Wherever you put Trump, he's Trump. He ain't changing. He ain't shifting. If he's debating one person or another person, he's just going to do what he does. I don't know that Trump even prepares. Why does he need to? He already knows what he's going to say. He's going to go in there and he's going to say immigration, and he's going to say, he intuitively understands the language of the working class. I ain't saying anything positive about Trump or negative about Trump. I'm saying he understands the rhetoric and uses the rhetoric of the working class, and the working class feel, more often than not, there are a lot of people in the working class that feel an identity with Trump that they don't feel with other members of the ruling elite, because a lot of other members of the ruling elite can't speak their language, can't use their rhetoric. Or here's the other part. Trump plays by the rhetorical rules of the working class as opposed to the rhetorical rules of the ruling elite. If the rhetorical rules of the ruling elite are, you can't say that Bush lied us into a war, because that kind of exposes imperialism, doesn't it? Trump don't play by those rules. So he can say whatever, ever. And then when Trump says Bush lied us into the war in 2015, 2016, and the ruling elite goes, oh my, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. And then they lose their minds, right? And they go, he's going to lose now. Well, yeah, if there was only people on CNN and MSNBC and Fox voting, he would lose. Problem is, they ain't the ones voting. And the average person out here goes, yeah, it kind of really did last into a war, didn't they? So Trump says things. Trump goes out the last time and he says, hey, it's people can't afford to live. Things are too expensive. That was the most powerful thing he said in his last debate. Why? Because the Democrats are saying things are going wonderful. The economy's never been better. Look at the numbers. They cherry pick the numbers. You know how the ruling elite does. They cherry pick the numbers, and then those numbers show that the economy's great and you're poor, and they tell you that you're doing better than ever. And Trump comes out and says, yeah, economy pretty much sucks. And people are like, yeah, it really does, right? He speaks a simplistic language, the language of the commoner. That ain't saying anything about who he is or what he is or his policies or anything else. I'm just saying, from a perspective of campaigning, he speaks the language of the commoner, and that's going to be more effective. And what happens when Trump gives a debate? All of the ruling elite and the talking heads go, oh, he messed up now, man. Oh, dude, he just screwed up. Oh, that was a major mess up. And it was, through the context of ruling elite. And the average person on the street just says, yeah, it's too expensive. Rent's too high, stuff's expensive, and they walk away. And they heard what Trump said. And ultimately, when they got to make a decision, I believe there's a lot of people, probably a lot of black folks in America, that right now, if you ask them are they voting for Trump, they'll say no. When they go in there, there's some of them, they ain't going to admit that they're voting for Trump. There's a lot of people that won't admit it. You vote for Trump? Oh, you kidding me? Trump? Ah, he's a racist pig. Did you hear what he said about crap old countries? Certainly never vote for Trump. And when they go in there, cha-ching, big T. I think that I may be wrong, could be wrong, but I have a funny feeling that's going to happen. Now, I'm not here to make a talk about whether Trump's good, bad, or indifferent. This is about politics. It ain't about my politics. My politics are lefty politics, right? But I got to try to evaluate what's there. One other thing, a statement that was made about Trump's VP. Okay, this will be last. There's a lot of discussion about Trump's VP. Oh, it was a terrible move. He shouldn't have picked this guy. It's a mistake, blah, blah, blah. Now, where does that come from? The ruling elite. I've read things that it says, Vance, let's see. Ooh, we want to know what the ruling elite thinks. J.D. Vance. I got to tell everybody, if you want to know what the ruling elite thinks, just Google it. Google it. Just use Twitter. Use Google and do a Google search. It is the most biased search ever in favor of the ruling elite. Let's search it. Let's go to news. And let's see what the news says about J.D. Vance so we can see what the ruling elite thinks about him. J.D. Vance, let us peep. Vance accused Walth of stolen valor. What to know about Walth's military record? What we know about military records of Walth and Vance. But did J.D. Vance see combat? He was in public affairs. Vance fires back at disgusting CNN anchor. That's Fox News. They've got one Fox News there. Vance jokes he's checking out his future VP plane while overlapping with Harris. Just cringe. Vance tries to confront Harris at Wisconsin airport. J.D. Vance mocked for Kamala chaos stage gaffe and Philly row. Vance finds his footing as Trump's attack dog. Ursha Vance reveals truth on claims hubby JD wears eyeliner. What the hell is that? So I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't think they know what to do, what the hell to say on JD Vance. For God's sake, what was that? Anyway, but that's the kind of stuff you're going to get. To always go to Google and search if you want to know what the ruling elite's thinking and what they're pushing. Bottom line is this. I've had people say that was, this is the ruling elite. We have issues with J.D. Vance's foreign policy. J.D. Vance is terrible. Now, again, not saying good, bad, or different. I think from a political analyst perspective, J.D. Vance was a very strong pick by Trump. Why is that? But that was a solid pick. That was a good pick. Now, here's one of the things I've heard. Well, J.D. Vance used to berate Trump and say he was Hitler. Fair enough. He did, right? Now, but let me take you back to the famous "I was that little girl" speech. In the 2020 primaries, Kamala Harris did this "I was that little girl" speech, the infamous one where she ripped Joe Biden validly. It was a good. I think what pissed Joe Biden off is that it was all true, that he was a terrible racist scumbag. Yes, Joe Biden, in fact, was a terrible racist scumbag. So she ripped him, and later on, she was on Jimmy Kimmel, and he brought that up, and he says, that was that little girl. You're going to be his VP, and man, you ripped that guy like there's going to be no tomorrow. And she did her usual laugh. Oh, come on, Jimmy. I'm paraphrasing. That was the primaries. In other words, this is politics, dude. No permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interest, right? And now I'm going to defend Kamala Harris. She was right. It was a primary. She was trying to take Joe Biden out and win. She went for the jugular. Okay. And later on, you ask her, why'd you go for the jugular? I was trying to win. The only thing I can say of all the things I've seen of Kamala Harris to compliment her, that's the only one I'll give her a compliment. She was running and she went for the jugular. Didn't work. Ain't nothing wrong with that. She was cutthroat. I'm going to take him out. And she got a good shot in on him. And later on, when they said, hey, you got a good shot in on him, what she said was, I didn't give a crap about that. I didn't mean that. I was trying to take him out. It was all politics. Fair enough. I ain't even mad at her. I'm not even going to berate her or belittle her for that. I understand politics. Let's be adults here. Let's not try to pretend as though that's not what politicians do. That's what she did. Fair enough. So let's face it. Same with J.D. Vance. Did you call Trump Hitler? That was politics. Yes, I did. I attacked him. I tore him to shreds. And now I'm his VP. You don't like it? Too bad. It's politics. Wake up. We're in D.C. You want a friend in Washington? Get a dog. We ain't friends here. This is a transactional town, my friend. It's a transactional town. You got to understand it. Don't hate the player, hate the game. And that's what that's about, ultimately. J.D. Vance, why do I think he was a very solid, strong pick? For this reason. Trump is running as the outsider. Trump is running as the guy who's hated by the ruling elite, and he wants to come in here and do something different. He understands that the whole Ukraine money thing is unpopular amongst the working class, which it is. Black and white, green, gray, and grizzly. It is unpopular. So he's going to bring J.D. Vance in there, and they're going to take a position that will be popular amongst the working class, which is in the Ukraine thing. Now, what they'll do, the direction they'll go with Israel, with China, I don't know. You can cross our fingers, but, based on U.S. imperialism and the history of colonialism, you can't have a real good feeling the way things are going. And the way things are going now, there ain't no guarantee there'll even be an economy left if they win, right? So who the hell knows? At any rate, thanks a lot, everybody. Here's what I'm going to do real quick. I am going to take a couple minutes, because I got a couple minutes. That may be all I got, but we're going to give it a shot. And we're going to look at the super chats. Here's one right here. Thank you very much, Ivan B. Thanks for the super sticker. We always get some good comments, some good questions with the super. Not just chats. We don't have just chats, man. We got super ones. Let's go to Anasa. Israel was created by OSS, a creation of London bankers. The bankers have direct ownership of Israel, unlike US and UK, where their control is indirect. Interesting. I didn't know that. So maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but thank you very much. It may very well be true based on how things work. Peter Effin. Thank you very much, Peter Effin. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep. The Sparkster says, bring Cynthia McKinney back from exile to be the next president in the next U.S. president's administration. Yeah, she's pretty cool. Sparkhead says, anytime anyone says that Israel's our only friend in the Middle East, I can't help but think before Israel, we had no enemies in the Middle East. U.S. missionary John Sheehan. Yeah, that's a famous quote, and that's a great quote, Sparky. Sparky says, make Israel Syria again. In those Ottoman Empire days, Levant Jews got along fine with their neighbors, whether Muslim, Christian, or otherwise. You're 100% right. You're 100% right, brother. Sparky says, make Ukraine Russia again. Sparky says, don't even leave a patch called Ukraine, lest it remain a NATO playground, carpetbaggers, money laundry, and becomes a BlackRock property. I think you are right, too. And I think, the last thing I'll say about Ukraine, I didn't finish saying this was, okay, so they've gone into the Kursk region and they're killing some civilians and they're going to get some PR from that. Ain't going to help you. Ain't going to save you. It's a PR move. I think that those troops could have been better used to reinforce they used apparently thousands of troops, or at least 1,000 troops. You got some areas along the front lines that need reinforcement dudes. So instead of trying to actually use them for a military perspective, they use them for a PR perspective. We got into Russia and we killed some civilians. Got into Russia and killed some civilians. But Russia understands something. That ain't going to help you. Ain't going to help you. You're going to get some PR from it, things like that. It ain't going to help you. Maintain course and speed. Isn't that what we say on the boat? ADEC. Thank you, Garland. Thank you, ADEC. Certainly appreciate that. Man, that was great. Wow, ADEC with major contribution. Thank you very much. Go Yemen, fight the power. Thank you, Mr. Mr. Sparkster. All right, ready? Sparky says, fun fact, in 1492, the Ottoman Empire sent ships to rescue Jews from the Spanish Inquisition. Contrary to popular belief, Jews and Muslims haven't been fighting for thousands of years. I agree. They were the safest, the Jewish people were the safest in the Middle East. How about Sparky says this? Kamala isn't clever enough to realize that her audience isn't as empty-headed as she is. She ain't clever at all, brother. She ain't clever at all. Let's see how things work out. Slumbering Colossus, thank you. Let's see how things work out for her when it comes to September. Do you remember the 20? Okay, doing my Earth, Wind, and Fire impersonation. Slumbering Colossus says, can we liberate U.S. from Zionism without revolt? I don't know. I think Zionism is in collapse anyway. It's not liberating. Zionism itself is, to me, it can't continue to hold up. It's falling apart. It's collapsing. It is being exposed. I mean, it is extremely a fascist ideology, and it is not what it is claimed to be. All right. ADEX says, please have Tony Montero on again to discuss the elections. By the way, I searched for government on Google. Then I got to govern. The suggested completion was a government surveillance keeps us safe. Yeah, that's it. That's it. You know, there was like people searching for Trump, and they search Trump, and they get like, they would search like donate to Trump, and it would come out suggestion donate to Kamala Harris. While we're here, let me do this. Let's do this. Let's want to do that. Let's just have a little fun real quick. Let's have a little fun. Let's go to Google. Let's do this. Trump, DONATE, and see what we get. Trump donate. Okay, so we got that. Oh, they got, oh, you know what? You know what? They have gotten hit so hard that now that at least they're, I think, a little bit scared. And now let's go to the stories. What do we got? Donald Trump donated 1,000 to Kamala Harris. Trump donated to Harris. Okay, so let's search. Let's do this. See what we get. See, they got a lot of heat on Google. They got found Kamala Harris donate. Let's search. See what we get. So the same thing. Harris smashes fundraising records, raises to 81 million. Kamala Harris donate via ActBlue. Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. Banks are restricting employees from donating to Harris Waltz campaign. Well, what do you know? Tech insiders and VCs donate heavily to, what a shock. Harris raises 310 million in July. More than 100 Silicon Valley investors pledged to support. Oh, she's got the Silicon Valley vote, don't she? So at any rate, all right, so let's keep going. Let's see if we have any more. How about we go to Arian Chambers. Garland, is it too late for Trump to switch out his VP? Picking Nikki Haley would be an interesting twist. Yeah, it would be an interesting twist. Picking a murderous warmonger, he'd be killed. Let me be simple. You think they took a swipe at Donald Trump now? If Donald Trump picked Nikki Haley, at that point, Donald Trump would win. That's it. Boom, Trump wins. And then when he wins, he'd be like, he wouldn't even get his hand up. Do you, Donald Trump, accept? Yes, I do. Bam, they shoot him. Nikki Haley's president. Oh, what do you know? Oh, he slipped on the way down, on the way up the stairs to the Capitol building and fell on a bullet 10 or 12 times. Yeah, that'd be suicide. Well, and why would he want that warmonger? Why would he? Trump, Nikki Haley, Trump with the neocon warmonger. Why not pick John Bolton if you're going to pick Nikki Haley? Same difference. How we go to Sparkster? It was a debate, cackle. Oh, Cackling Harris. Not Jacqueline Harris, Cackling Harris. How about we go this? Spoil BlackRock's plan, make Ukraine rush again. To Sparkster. And any more? That's it. Let's look on Rockfin. And last but not least, we will check Rumble for Rumble rants. So we're going to go to here. We're going to go to my content. We're going to check for Rumble. All right, here we go. Jokers for You says, thanks for your dedication and consistency. Thank you, Jokers for You. All right, everybody. I think that's it. I think that's all I can do. I can't do no more. And you all have a wonderful day. Last but not least, let me throw this out at you. You know, I'm not on X, so share this on your social media platforms, particularly on X. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought this was pretty good, so it means it probably sucked. You know what? Well, here's the weird thing. Every time I do a video and I'm like, man, that stunk. That was pretty bad. Why do I need to just get rid of that? People send me a message. That was brilliant. It was great. It was fantastic. And I'm like, but I thought it sucked, right? And so now I did one and I thought, well, I thought that was pretty good. I kind of like that. People are going to probably contact me. God, Garland, that's the worst piece of crap you've ever done. You need to retire. Hang yourself now. Save the world, right? But at any rate, so do me a favor. Share this on all your social media platforms. You see everything there, whether it's Patreon, PayPal, buy me a coffee, all of that kind of stuff. Anything that anybody can do to help the channel, I appreciate it. And don't forget my political superfood Substack. All you got to go there for like what, $4.99 a month. If you don't want to spend all the rest of this stuff, political superfood Substack, $4.99 a friggin' month. You can become a member. So that's an option. Thanks a lot, everybody. Peace. I'm out. Don't forget, share this.